in. Oh, never mind. Is that a rift I see? Ladies and gentlemen, let's get right into it. Kicking off the knockout stage of the EMEA Masters Plains with eSuba versus Supermassive. Welcome to the rift.
See what these teams can actually pull out now that they're against each other. I feel like eSuba have a really clear road to victory, but they're not really setting up for it. I was expecting them to have a bit more presence towards the bot side, trying to get Danny and FGG to get bush control, to probably get information of the enemy jungler. They're not doing that. They're playing a bit more on the reserved side, I would say, which means Supermassive are a bit calmer in this early game because they don't need to act, they need to react. And one misstep from eSuba, especially given that they didn't take that information, could potentially cost them a lot. So I do want to see eSuba still try to get some info, wards, vision towards that bot side.
Well, vision contest is been a fairly large topic, I almost want to say, especially towards the jungle, right? Tracking the enemy jungler, especially in the early game, has been super important of the, well, basically the whole lifetime of this patch that we're currently playing on 1306, I think it is, right? So I am very curious to see what the early game is going to look like for the junglers, and of course, as you mentioned, right, the vision contest, get some little deep vision into the enemy jungle to find out and track properly where the Vi is headed, where Haru is headed, where Tinks is headed. All in all, who of these two junglers do you expect to make more impact in this early game?
I feel like they both have the same abilities to make things happen. The Wukong and the Vi as champions are very good duelists, very good skirmishers. They want to make things happen. The Wukong has a little bit of a harder time unless he has lane setup. He does not have CC inbuilt in his kit until level 6, whilst the Vi has a bit easier mobility to use around lanes, and of course the CC from the Vault Breaker cannot be ignored. But I do feel like Tinks has a bigger responsibility, as I've said before in the Champion Select. I do feel like Tinks has to show up for these lanes, and luckily for him, he does have the lane set up. The Gragas has a body slam, the Ahri has a charm, and of course, FGG, he's a rel. His whole kit is crowd control.
It's definitely going to be a little bit more exciting for eSuba in the first few minutes. Once we hit this level 6 breakpoint, right? The first item, going into the first objective fight, the first dragon, maybe even a herald. That's when I think Supermassive is going to start to show up in this game. But in general, I think the discussion around the junglers is a very important one, because it really feels like to me in this current meta, if something happens in a equal level of gameplay for every lane, it is really the junglers making and breaking the game.
Of course, and I don't feel like any of the lane matchups are actually skewed towards either side. I feel like they both require a lot of jungle attention. We did see FGG going for the crashdown and trying to figure out a way to start a 2v2, but unless your jungler is actually there, you don't have kill pressure. You don't have a way to keep the enemies in place, but Haru might.
Oh, the flash forward with the miasma. The fangs do connect. Ozzy gets a right hook to the chest and the head. Beautiful first blood here by Supermassive. Great first impact by Haru.
Yeah, and that's not a place where Varsity wants to be, particularly. It's like the Ahri has to push against the Cassiopeia early. It's not like she can trade very efficiently without mana, but you need to play towards your vision, and matter of fact is, eSuba doesn't have vision at all. You see the topside scuttler, a ward on the bot side. Supermassive had every entrance to that mid lane covered, and Varsity just didn't know on which side of the mid lane to be, and that ended up costing him dearly.
And with that, you have a Vi with both feet firmly planted into the game. Great start here for Haru. The question is, what is Tinks up to now? He needs to find an answer somewhat quickly, and you already talked about the lane setup here, especially in top lane, where, well, the question, or the conversation rather, ultimately leads us back to Juzu, who has been absolutely crushing the matches on this top lane so far. A little bit of an engage, maybe? No? Okay. Let's talk more about top lane then.
They wanted it. They didn't get it, but they wanted it. In any case, yeah. Juzo has been performing. I feel like he he's still a player with experience, even though he doesn't have the international experience of the rest of the roster. He is still a pretty good player, and yes, he's still very dangerous, even though he usually plays weak side for his team. Of course, when you have Holy Phoenix and Farfetch'd on your roster, you don't want to play strong side. You want the resources to go towards this bot lane, so it does make sense that he doesn't get the attention from his team he needs, but again, it's not like it's actually necessary. He's still consistently getting that prio, consistently making sure that the enemy team cannot threaten the first Rift Herald, for example, because he does have these safe picks, but he can play them to a place where his wave management is impeccable and where he always knows he can move first. So it doesn't really matter what he's playing up against. It's very hard to just shut down this player, which is why most teams don't even try. They're like, okay, we're gonna default our top side too, and we'll try to match your aggressiveness on the other side, and usually that's not enough, but sometimes it is. As we've seen, Supermassive are not unbeatable.
Exactly. And not just do you have Prio in top lane, thanks to Juzu just outperforming at the moment in this early, of course, well, it's Gragas Gnar matchup, right? There is a little bit of a thing to it. But also you have Prio in mid lane, thanks to Saren and Haru scoring that first blood. You have Push on bot lane, and that just enabled Supermassive to pick up the first dragon incredibly early. So for his team that really wants to scale into the late game with the Zeri, with the Cassio, right? With the Gnar, look for team fights. The potential of picking up Dragon Soul by 25 minutes is massive.
Yeah, it's a dream start because, again, if the game stays like this, if the game state doesn't change, Supermassive are going to be favored in the third dragon fight, in the fourth dragon fight. So this is an excellent start where eSuba have not been able to match what's been happening in the other side. And yes, we've seen Tinks on the bot side recalling in the tri-bush looking for a dive, but the priority just wasn't there. He tried to show up in the top side, but Juzo was just too safe. It's very hard as a Wukong specifically to make sure your early game goes as planned, and eSuba are just still looking for something to hang on to, and maybe this first Herald skirmish could be where they change the tides, but FGG is already going bot side, so maybe not.
Yeah. I mean, it is really down to Supermassive respecting the enemy game plan, especially the potential of Tinks in the early game, right? And playing around this Wukong properly. Wazzy on the other side, he is gonna be ganked with everyone, the grand entrance in, and throw in another ultimate or two. He still gets out, Ignite ticking, burns to a crisp as Farfetch'd picks up the second kill. This Ahri is not having a great time right now. eSuba struggling.
Not at all, and the Ahri didn't have flash, so Supermassive wanted to punish her before level 6, but the moment she hit 6, okay, we need an elaborate setup. We need to wait for the Rift Herald, wait for our bot lane, and that's exactly what happens. The setup is perfect. She can only throw out one of the 3 charges of the Spirit Rush before she gets taken down, and it's just, again, eSuba don't have the setup to make sure Vachi can stay alive in that mid lane, and obviously, that Rift Herald is probably free at this point. Holy Phoenix has that very long wall. He throws in the W2 and point and click CC. That's done. Oh!
We have a Herald fight going on. Haru tried to go into the pit and get the steal. I'm not sure. Did he get it? He actually got the steal. Haru, the absolute legend, deals away a free Herald from eSuba. Absolutely incredible. No, never mind. He picked it up. They were just strolling around with the eye on the floor. Never mind. I got too excited. Sorry, guys.
Wait, I don't know if he got the steal or if Haru
No,
was
it's in
Herald?
It's in Tinks' inventory.
No, I know. But what I'm saying is, I thought Haru was doing it alone and eSuba just crashed the party, I think.
No,
I don't know. We're not sure.
Tinks was on it before we got into the replay. Haru tried to go in for his steal and barely made it out. So a little bit of shenanigans going on, but talking about more shenanigans that are happening right now, Holy Phoenix shoving out this bot lane massively, and look at Supermassive rotating with a massive presence, funneling more gold into this area, and we got an engage with the Viol lightning crash going in as well. Danny takes a lot of damage, but here comes Warzy, lands the charm, but it's only Saren that he finds, and you don't really want to follow up on the Cassio here right now. The dive attempt, oh, beautiful quickness, Farfetch with some massive plays, the damage coming through, down goes Danny, and they go in deep, following up on Warzy and Tinks, but can they bring the damage? It does not look like. Wow. Supermassive on a playmaking roll here.
What a great play forced by the Turkish team, and they had such a big wave, such a big crash. They had all the time in the world to do whatever they wanted to in that situation, and they made the most out of it. Obviously, it's very hard for Danny and FGG, given that they're so behind, to stay relevant at least until like the 20-minute mark, until the Kai'Sa gets the double evolve, and that just makes it so Supermassive will probably win the next 2, 3, 4 fights, and eSuba just has to make a choice. They either commit to the side lanes, use the Ahri, use the Gragas as pick tools, and try to get kills that way, use the Kai'Sa, obviously, with the ultimate to try to finish off any potential enemies, or they're just gonna have to let every single neutral objective go towards the enemy, and they haven't even used their Herald yet, but at this point, I don't even know if they can use it effectively.
It's going to be tough at least. You want to get some gold, maybe in an ideal case, take down a turret, but all in all, it's looking very, very oppressive what Supermassive is playing here at the moment. And at this point, I think, after that fight, we got to talk a little bit more about Farfetch, right? Because he is just recently rejoining the roster, but he is playing incredible in this matchup. But then we come back to this discussion point of Supermassive always struggling with themselves a little bit, and Farfetch definitely one of those supports that can either solo carry a game or play some baseball.
Oh yeah, he's very hit and miss. I remember the first game of World's Play-ins, I think, last year. I was casting it in Portuguese, and I was just watching Farfetch, and I'm like, what is this guy doing? He was like 0-10 in Nautilus, and he had like the rest of his team barely had any deaths. It was just him, just throwing himself into the enemies and trying to get picks, and it was just so weird because Supermassive didn't really have the composition to follow it up. I feel like Farfetch is that hit and miss player. He is that player, maybe like a Hylissang, where he's always going to look for plays, no matter what your win conditions are. And yeah, that can be very good when you actually draft towards your win conditions, when the team is all on the same page. But when they're not, or when the enemy team gets a slight lead, you probably should be trying new things, and Farfetch doesn't really do that.
Yeah, but so far with Haru, he has seemingly found a jungler that is very much on the same page with him, especially this game. Some very incredible picks they found together in that bot lane fight.
Yep.
One of the main examples. The Herald went down here for eSuba, but didn't even get a charge off because Supermassive was immediately there to shut it down. Holy Phoenix is going to pick up some additional platings. And with the shield bow already completed on this area, this is only going to snowball his lead even further. Open up the bot lane, open up for Holy Phoenix to go to a different lane and start shenanigans over there. And in the meantime, Sarah in the mid lane already on a full item. You have Haru on a full item. All in all, Supermassive are, well, basically 4k gold ahead at the moment. And they are crushing this game so far.
Oh yeah, they are. They're completely comfortable too. It's not like they have... they're not in a hurry. They don't need to make anything happen. They can just wait for objectives. They can wait for eSuba to just walk into them, because at this point, they're just going to be favored for the near future. And again, eSuba needs that creativity to come online. The only saving grace from their early game was the first Herald, and they couldn't even make that work because they kind of fumbled what was a very well executed bot skirmish by Supermassive. So now they're kind of with their hands tied, but Tink's still trying to make things happen, I guess.
Looking for a little bit of a fight, but so is Haru. There's the quickness follow-up. Farfetch once again with a beautiful engagement. Holy Phoenix over the wall is just gonna come in, sliding on through for a quick and nice double kill. You cannot fight this roster at the moment, man.
Not at all. And Farfetch does what not many people do on Rakan. Yes, Rakan is a great pick, but it needs to be well executed.
He almost hit that. Okay, we're warmed up. This is gonna be a great game, man. Supermassive showing us some plays here.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about. Like, Farfetch, he only uses his grand entrance when he's sure he's gonna get the knockup. Usually, Rakan's use the W first and try to either zone you out or start the team fight. Farfetch didn't do that on the two picks they got earlier. He first went in with the quickness, he made sure they were both in the same place by drawing them in with the charm, and then he got the double knockup.
Nice attempt here from Mershi. Doesn't quite find the charm, but at least forces both summoners out of Holy Phoenix, so that's a little bit of safety down for the Zeri. But still, this top lane turret is about to fall. Supermassive very much in position to just hammer that advantage home. And then meanwhile, in the mid lane,
Oh, Bakshi.
it's it. Oh, nice charm and the turnaround immediately. While she has the stopwatch, but still, it's gonna be cleaned up. Holy Phoenix picks up another kill. Supermassive just does not let anything happen here for eSuba.
Yeah, eSuba were trying to keep Tinks and FGG in. Oh, okay, what is Tinks
Turn it
doing?
around, the quickness, the cease and desist. They find Tinks, but he is too far gone underneath his turret. FGG ready to capitalize on that. So we're pulling back. In the meanwhile, bot lane, 1v1, Juzu going for the solo kill, but Danny is there to shut him down. Almost gaps his opponent. Great reaction from eSuba here to pick up the second kill for them.
Yeah, that was exhaustive, because if it were not for that exhaust, Juzo would have definitely gotten the last hit on Babista. And here, eSuba are trying to use the fact that Tinks and FGG are in the fog of war. But Supermassive were one step ahead. They were doing the exact same thing, waiting for eSuba to be where they shouldn't be, because the wave wasn't even where they wanted it to be. It was just eSuba trying to be creative, and I commend them for that. But Supermassive were still one step ahead. They still made it work, and yes, they probably overstepped right afterwards trying to get Tinks, but they're still so far ahead that it doesn't matter. They are still with such a safe and secure comp that it doesn't matter when they take these kinds of risks.
Yeah, you can very much kind of see in that play the difference between these two teams in this first game at the moment. Supermassive, everyone on the same page, while eSuba, they got some good ideas, but they can't quite execute. Now, third dragon, this would be sole point, and eSuba is around for a fight. They do have some items, but the overall advantage here in gold and gear definitely lies with the Turkish representatives. And Haru is looking for a little bit of a blast cone engage here. Babista on this side. Danny, meanwhile, securing mid priority. Maybe they can grab a turret to take some capital out of that. But once again, Dragon started off. It is gonna be all down to the engage. The execution from eSuba here. Keep your eyes on Danny, but here comes the engage. And immediately, everyone is in. The Gragas is fairly tanky, but they all dive up after Babista. Down he goes. The Dragon will continue to DPS eSuba in this situation. The charm lands on Haru. And for the moment, Supermassive has to pull back. Drop the Herald to put external pressure on the mid lane, and for the moment eSuba need to pull back. This Drake is getting started up once again.
eSuba shouldn't have been here in the first place. It's like they set up the mid prio, they knew that this fight was going to be near impossible, and it's still just soul point. It's not like they're going to instantly lose that Ocean Soul at this point, so they still try to get in, they still try to use the time that they have before the fight where Saren isn't even there, but Supermassive are just so fast to turn it around. They have the vision setup that eSuba didn't really clear out, which Haru uses to his advantage because he pretends the pixel brush is not warded, he pretends he cannot see Babista, but the moment the Graga steps up, he gets Vi ulted, he gets shut down, and Supermassive are even further ahead with the Rift Herald being more than enough to actually get something done in that mid lane, and in the meantime we have a pause, but honestly, Supermassive are on a roll.
It's looking incredible for them at the moment, and I think it's a little bit past the point where we can talk about really comp differences and draft differences. I think we're very much in a position of just better laning at the moment, really, and Haru on the Vi finding so much early impact together with Farfetch'd, all snowballing off of these two mid lane kills. Supermassive is doing, well, basically presenting us with a textbook example of how to snowball a game.
Yeah, and they weren't even trying to look for these plays, they were just taking whatever was handed to them, and that just makes it all the more dominating. eSuba still trying to look for picks.
Yep, there's the Everfrost. The root is in. Haru all by himself. Will leave him to die. Farfetch'd says goodbye. Nice pick here from eSuba. And this is definitely something that they need to do more of. They need to find these angles to get back into the game.
Yeah, that's the only thing they can do, honestly, at this point. And it's good to see that they actually recognize that, and they have vision to go for Farfetch'd too.
Yep, but that is a fairly mobile and tanky Rakan. And the rest of the team right around the corner. So, Blast Cone out. Tinks with a good game sense here to not go for more. For now, we're back to this really a little bit almost helpless position. Let's talk a little bit about the items that are in, right? Because we need to talk about the Dragon Soul coming up in 3 minutes. And that next fight is very much in favor of Supermassive.
Oh, yeah, it is. They already have second item on their carries, which makes it so that even if eSuba eventually get to their second items, they'll still be an item behind, probably, when the next dragon comes around. And honestly, it's a 2-item Zeri versus a 2-item Kai'Sa. Yes, she has the double evolve, but if she's not actually ahead of the curve, if she's not actually ahead of her laning partner, she probably just can't do much. She has the exhaust, yes, the Zeri might have a lowered amount of DPS because of that, but Supermassive are so tight-knit as a composition. They have so much peel for these carries too that it just makes it so hard for Danny to have those pop-off moments. So eSuba, again, they need to make things happen before the dragon. They need to set up vision and wards before that dragon actually happens, because if that doesn't happen, they're just gonna have to fight against an Ocean Soul, buy their healing reduction, or else it's just a mountain too high to climb.
That's also a very important point, right? Because if we look at the inventories here on the side of eSuba, no one's going for those healing reduction items currently, because it's just not worth it, right? So you suddenly not just fall behind in terms of fighting power due to a Drake Soul picked up, you also fall behind even further because you have no measures against this Ocean Soul. And that, of course, makes the gold lead that is currently 6,000 basically a little bit more than just the raw gold value. And you're eyeing up a Zeri with already 2 items completed and half an IE in her inventory.
Yeah, that's half an Affinity Edge. That's way too much. And even if eSuba are forced to buy healing reduction, what are they going to do against an Ocean Soul? It's not like eSuba want to fight the enemies with or without Ocean Soul, so it's like they still want the burst. They shouldn't buy healing reduction, honestly, even if the soul comes out. They're still going for picks, they're still going for bursts.
Yeah.
And if you're letting the enemy hit you, you're probably already dead.
Well, that is definitely a good point. So Tinks and Danny, together with Washi, they have a mountain to climb in these team fights if they want to bring the damage that can actually win it. On the other side, Supermassive, these guys are now going from a little bit more of the aggressive pick style in the laning phase to safe and secure, just pull the news ever tighter over the minutes, play it safe, play it close to the chest, and just bring it home.
Yeah, again, they are not particularly worried with what they have to do this game. They were very, very good at taking advantage of the enemy's momentum and using it against them, especially in that bot side. And now, Holy Phoenix is 5-0-2. It's a Zeri. She has half an Affinity Edge in her inventory. It's not like she's ever gonna be irrelevant. She's always gonna be the best hyper carry in the game. Cassiopeia, she's not gonna get any weaker. She's also gonna get all the more value with all the enemies that are going to try to dash in, like the Rel, like the Ahri, and the Wukong. So eSuba are desperate.
Yep, they're looking for a fight. They find some CC with the Magnet Storm, but the follow-up isn't quite there. Farfetch down to 200, gets chunked and killed off on the way out. In the meantime, Saren on the Drake can't support his team. That's why Supermassive are getting super rolled right now. Down goes the Zeri. Massive shutdown going into the bags of Washi, but now they finally are able to turn the fight around, kill off Tinks, and go for the chase. Nonetheless, based on the game state, this is a massive win for eSuba.
Yes, it is. Danny still sticks around, tries to get his red buff. He does not manage to do that, and that's exactly what I wanted to see from the Czech squad. eSuba trying to surprise their enemies. Why would they go for Baron there? For no other reason than to make your opponent react. What do Supermassive do? They react, but they weren't ready for it. They didn't set up for it. And because of that, eSuba were more comfortable in the situation. They managed to get the pick over Farfetch while keeping the distance from Danny himself, and as soon as Holy Phoenix tries to hit, the exhaust, bam! That summoner spell is so powerful, in the right hands, used in the right moments, and Supermassive just didn't react in time. Still, they get the Ocean Soul, but this is a massive amount of time just purchased by eSuba in this situation.
Indeed, the gold lead down to 5k, and another fight building up here at the moment. This time the Casio is around though, and FGG is very far in without a way out. He's going to be killed off immediately. Holy Phoenix looking for an angle back into the fray. Doesn't quite find it though. A kill picked up here, and Supermassive immediately call for the Baron.
Yeah, now it's eSuba, again, having to play by the opponent's rules, and they don't have the exhaust on Holy Phoenix anymore. He just gets to hit as he wants. He has all this lifesteal with the Bloodthirster as well, and it seems like the Baron's going down.
2.5k, and Tings looking for a steal, goes into the pit. Oh my god! Marshy, he picks it up, but immediately eSuba get clapped on the way out. 3 down. This Ahri only needs to get away. It's a double kill for Holy Phoenix. But at least the Baron is prevented. eSuba with massive plays.
This was the distraction. Varshi had smite from the unsealed spellbook. He comes in, he smites after the Wukong because Tinks knew he was gonna die. Tinks knew he wasn't gonna get the last hit. So what does he do? He sets it up for his mid laner. The entirety of the Supermassive squad weren't even looking inside the pit, and what a great sight to see. Again, the surprise coming in, and it's not like Varshi was out of vision. He wasn't. Supermassive were aware that the Ahri was behind the pit and that she had the smite ready to use, but they still focused down Tinks, who puts the Baron at 500 HP, ready for the taking in. Varshi again purchasing so much time for his team.
And a massive influx of gold as well. First the shutdowns, now the Barons. And look at the items. It's a slow crawl back into the game, but eSuba are on a good path here. Only 5,000 gold. And on the other side, well, Supermassive, they haven't found a good fight in quite a while now. Still, timer ticking in their favor, and they are looking for a push down mid lane.
I am very, very happy with how eSuba are just managing to not let Supermassive fight at all. Which means that it doesn't matter how many items the Zeri has. It doesn't matter how many items the Cassiopeia has, because she can't really hit anyone. She's just shoving side waves and showing up late to the party. It's just like Supermassive are not being able to use this, well, Supermassive lead, and it just makes it so that eSuba, on the other hand, are getting the picks they want, are getting the items they want, and again, they shouldn't buy healing reduction, they shouldn't care about the Ocean Soul, because picks are all they're gonna eye at this point.
Yep. Do you think I cursed Haru by calling him an absolute legend for maybe stealing that herald?
I don't believe in curses, so no, you did not.
You're a caster and you don't believe in curses and jinxes?
No, but yeah, because it's not like they don't come true, they do. I just tell myself, I convince myself that I don't believe in them, as to not bias my words.
Right, the more you repeat the mantra, the more likely it is to get true, right?
Curses aren't real, curses aren't real, curses aren't real.
Well, let's see which team is a little bit more cursed in this matchup here at the moment, because Supermassive, they still have a massive lead. 5,000 gold, a Dragon Soul, and of course, the map state advantage. You can see the vision line very much pushed beyond the river into the enemy jungle. The tier 2 turrets are getting farmed systematically. The tier 2 in the middle is down already, so we'll be eyeing up bot and top lane right now for eSuba. And of course, we gotta talk about the Elder Dragon spawning in a minute 30.
Yeah, it was a very fast Ocean Soul, so we're gonna have an Elder Dragon by the 30-minute mark, which means that's all the more chance for eSuba to crawl back even further, because that's what happens when you let the enemy team get 4 Drakes. It means that on the 5th Drake, if you steal it, you can probably just get back in the game. Like, it's the Elder Dragon win condition. We meme about it a lot, at least in Portugal. It's like, when you're so far behind that you don't know what to do with the game, just let the enemy team get sold, because you're gonna have a chance to steal an Elder Drake, to flip it.
We maybe should consult some of the experts from the respective regions for these teams, aka Twitch chat.
Yes.
Which region is more likely to flip a game at Elder? Because man, I'd be all here for it, especially with how the smites have gone this game so far.
Yeah, exactly. And Varshi is not gonna have smite, I don't think, because of how the cooldowns work with the unsealed spellbook, which means it's literally just gonna be both junglers trying to fight for that 1200 damage smite, and I mean, Supermassive should be able to force a fight and to divert the attention from the dragon, but if they end up falling in the same pitfall that they did with the Baron, where they were just hitting for too long and they were like, might as well finish it at this point, then that's where eSuba can actually draw their attention toward other places and finish off the dragon for themselves. So, again, I want to see the Turkish team play it slow and use their compositional advantages instead of rushing the objective.
And you can see Supermassive setting this very well up for themselves. They gain the mid lane control, and they let eSuba start this off. Elder Drake is down to 10k. Slowly but surely the poke is going to come in, and Haru in a position for an engage. Juzu and Farfetch'd on the side. They are looking for a massive multi-man knockup and maybe a connection onto Danny. And there it is. This is coming in, and down goes the ADC. Haru into the backline. Farfetch'd with the support, and the Queen is coming through. Tings on the dragon. He's not even close enough to dead for a steal, and Supermassive roll this fight completely. It is not even a talking point worth mentioning how dominant this was. Holy Phoenix looking for a follow-up. The Elder Drake will be picked up in just a second, and the Turkish team is looking for the first point in this series.
And eSuba started off so well. They started off the dragon, they forced Supermassive into the pit instead of into the fight. But the moment they lost control of the objective was the moment they lost control of the river, the moment they lost control of the game.
Beautiful flanks coming in from Juzu and Farfetch'd. There is nothing Bobista can do on this Gragas. The Nexus is gonna go down, and Turkey is up 1-0.